Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Tessier of WrestleZone.com here on a Tuesday night to talk all about WWE NXT 2.0. Riding solo tonight, John Clark is traveling, so I am by myself. Hopefully, you all don't mind, but we'll get through it. I'm looking forward to hearing what you all have to say about the latest edition of the Rainbow brand, I guess. That's what you can call it these days. Before I do, just want to remind you all this show, like everything we do here, is available on all of our streaming platforms, SoundCloud, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, whatever it may be. We've got you covered. So, of course, tonight was the go-home show for NXT Vengeance Day next week. So definitely a lot of important stuff on tap here, from the men's Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic semifinals to a women's championship match to just in general some last minute build to Vengeance Day. Definitely an important show, if I could word. Also worth noting that the show is on Sci-Fi tonight, so for all you viewership fiends out there like myself, I like to kind of pay attention to the viewership side of things, just to see in some ways kind of a reflection of how the show is doing. Speaking of which, Nesha Curtis, fan of the show, saying it was actually a better show than last week. I mean, I feel like last week was really bad, so saying that the show was better, I would agree, as always, as I like to say, the bar is very low. But no, I don't disagree with that. It was not an actively bad show at this point. I'm just constantly fighting my own perception of this is NXT these days. It's not the way that it once was, and just constantly dealing with that. But Steven Chambers saying it was a good show, better than Raw this week. I mean, I'd probably agree with that. I didn't love Raw either. Maybe just my general headspace. I felt kind of a little more receptive to the show tonight than I did last night. I was not really feeling it last night to begin with. So no, not a bad show by any means. Especially in comparison to some of the other outings from NXT 2.0 we've seen so far. But with that being said, folks, let's get right into it. We had the show. I thought it was going to open with a women's the women's championship match. I thought they had announced that somewhere, or maybe I mistook the fact they said it would be commercial free. I thought it would be commercial free and opening the show, so I was kind of assuming that would be the case. And then we got the Creed brothers and Grizzled Young Veterans to open the show here. Now, this was a pretty good match. I thought it was interesting because I feel like we haven't really seen what the Creed brothers can do. Like, they've been in some multi-man matches as Diamond Mine. We've had them in some squash matches, but we haven't really gotten to see them in too many really competitive matches. And that's what this match was. It was definitely more of a hard-fought kind of thing. And I thought it was kind of a good test for them, because they're veterans. Very, very underrated. I think we were talking about this last week. I think they've made it to the semifinals 3 years in a row. So they are definitely like the embodiment of always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And that just stinks, because I remember thinking last year I was really impressed with the run they had. And even last year, I wouldn't have minded seeing them winning, and they didn't. They lost MSK. And now this year, lost the semifinals to the Creed brothers. So I was a little surprised with that. Brian Everett saying that the Grizzled Young Veterans were his pick. Yeah, we've had a couple of upsets here, and not to say the Creed brothers winning was a total upset, but I think they had more of that pedigree or background, maybe that you could kind of safely pick them. Whereas Creed brothers, they are definitely more of the newcomers, so I don't think they would have been necessarily harmed by the loss. Whereas Young Veterans really could have benefited from a win. So that was definitely a little, again, if not unexpected, maybe a little questionable. I mean, or just kind of an interesting kind of fork in the road. It's like you can roll with Grizzled Veterans or go with Creed Brothers, kind of your more established team, versus building a new team. And they won't roll with the Creed Brothers. There's one really cool spot at the end. The crowd lost their mind. I believe it was Julius Creed popped up on the top rope like out of nowhere and hit a superplex. The camera shot it pretty cool. Apparently it looked pretty cool live, because the crowd just really went crazy for it. So that was pretty cool. That kind of got me into it more. The crowd was really feeling it, so that helped. I thought it was a good match anyway. In a lot of ways, it felt like the Grizzled Young Veterans were really in control. They had a Doomsday device. Shout out to the Legion of Doom, or the Road Warriors, I should say. And they dove over the ropes at one point. The Creed Brothers definitely more of your amateur wrestling kind of thing. So pretty interesting clash of styles. Grizzly veterans win. We wouldn't find out until later who they'll be facing. Might as well talk about it. But one more thought about this match, saying yes, it was actually a good match here. Stephen Chambers enjoyed the match here that we got to see. Brian Everett, maybe in a more general sense, saying the Creed brothers are going to be the team to watch. I mean, I definitely think they looked impressive here. Can they win? I mean, they can. They are now in the finals. It's basically a coin flip at this point. I would be pretty surprised if they beat the MSK next week. MSK, former champions. It feels like their kind of redemption story in that sense, where they have the whole Riddle thing. That'd be kind of a more pretty logical way to conclude it. They win, they get another title shot, and maybe get the titles back, at the very least challenge for the titles again. So, I mean, I think I'd probably prefer at this point. I never like really hot shotting anybody too much. We've seen with Braun Breaker, it's worked out fairly well, but you can't. It's a risky, it's a risky move to really kind of strap the rocket to anybody. I think they're going to benefit no matter what from having this run, being in the Dusty Cup, make it to the finals, win or lose. I think that's a good spot for him. Likewise, Stephen Chambers saying he's rooting for the Creeds, but he will not be surprised if MSK win it well. Might as well dive into it. So in the other semifinal match, we had MSK versus Malik Blade and Idris Anufa. This was definitely the kind of your Cinderella story upset kind of thing they've been teasing for a while. When Malik and Idris came out, I think it was Vic Joseph did the classic, "Do you believe in miracles?" Thinking could they possibly pull it off? And I thought that they might. NXT 2.0 these days, if nothing else, it's a show where pretty much anything can happen. So what, for better or worse. So I thought there's a part of me, they came out and they're really hyping up this upset potential here with MSK maybe losing. So I thought that was possible, and I'll admit it, I'm glad they didn't go that way. I thought, that I guess just like the Creed brothers, I thought it would have been a bit of a risky proposition to do that. And again, there's no real harm in losing here. They're the underdogs. They're this team that was in some ways lucky to make it this far in the first place. They beat Harland and Joe Gacy by DQ, so kind of snuck their way in past the first round in that sense. So even in this loss here, Brian's saying that they really showed out. The Blade and Anufa really showed up. The match was fire, and likewise, Stephen Chambers saying Blade and Anufa bright future. I think they're very, very talented. I think they can go far. I also think they need to have better gimmicks. I mix them up. I think Malik is the one they've kind of given the kind of goofy gimmick where like his thing is kind of moving his pecs out of excitement at this point, which is odd, but it's a fine pairing. It's a fun pairing. I think they can continue to grow together and be kind of maybe a bit of a dark horse in the tag division here. Maybe never quite the championship level at this point, but there's nothing wrong with being kind of a solid supplemental team in that sense. So they're two talented guys. I'm sure that I would agree they have a bright future. Sorry, I misspoke. Brian saying it's enough moving his pecs. So yeah, I think he'll be better off if he can kind of get a more layered character here. We'll talk more about some of the problems of characters on NXT 2.0 here that was shown tonight. But yeah, if the gist of your character is that you're just moving your pecs and that's all there really is to it, that's got a pretty short shelf life for me, and I think that's a pretty safe thing to say. So that doesn't take away the fact this was a very good match. MSK won. And again, I think that's probably the right call. So they will face the Creed brothers. With that being said, DJ is saying he's on board with Creed brothers winning the tournament based on MSK is not really NXT 2.0 with, as we've been talking about for months and months now, a lot of the 2.0 era getting kind of swept, if not swept under the rug, at least kind of moved to the back of the line here in the sense and really pushing the new guys. This would seem to suggest that, the Creed brothers could win it here. Eddie Zahari agreeing, so Creed brothers going to win it all. Could happen. I mean, I will say we have seen Imperium feuding with Dynamite, so in some ways that would make sense as well. I think either option is good. It's beneficial, and I'm sure it's going to be a good match. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully it gets some time. We do know it'll be a bit crowded next. We got a bunch of matches to look forward to, so hopefully they get enough time to have a good performance either way. Win or lose, no matter what happens there. But that will be the finals of the Men's Dusty Cup. So I was feeling pretty good at this point. We had a pretty good, tag match to open the show. I was feeling pretty good about it. I liked it. I was like, hey, that was kind of a pleasant surprise, folks. And then, as we often see on NXT these days, they gave me something that I liked, and then they went the complete opposite direction, and really, really just took me right out of it. So they announced earlier today that there would be a battle for Daddy's credit card between Wendy Chu and Tiffany Stratton. Now, if you remember last week, Tiffany tried to help Amari Miller use the credit card as a weapon. Wendy Chu stole it, walked away with it. Lo and behold, she goes shopping with it, which led many people, based on the Twitter chatter, to say, hey, if Tiffany got her daddy's credit card stolen, wouldn't Tiffany or her daddy get the credit card canceled, deactivated, just to do whatever it takes to stop it from being used immediately? Apparently not, because Wendy Chu and Amari Miller went shopping. There's a backstage vignette. They show up a lot of shopping bags. They went on this grand shopping spree, had a grand old time, leading us to the battle for Daddy's credit card on NXT 2.0. Folks, I see that announcement. It's just the mere fact I'm sitting here saying the battle for Daddy's credit card. Like, what are we doing here? Like, this isn't NXT, man. And I'm not trying to be the crotchety old guy, like, oh, this isn't the NXT that I knew and loved. And that's what I feel like that's what I've turned into anyway. But this wasn't I won't say a new low, but was not good. Not good. Brian saying he was not a fan. He's just not a fan of Tiffany Stratton in general. I thought she looked better than she has in this match by and large. I think in some ways she's like the embodiment of 2.0 at this point. If you kind of get past the silly gimmick, some of the character stuff here, I thought she looked fine in the ring, probably her best showing yet. And I thought it was a fine match in that sense. But then you've got Wendy Chu coming out with her like alarm clock theme song that drops into like a hip hop beat kind of thing, which is weird. And then she comes to the ring with a pillow and she's napping. Her whole thing is she's a napper and she falls asleep in mid matches. I don't know, man. Again, we had a really, really pretty good tag team match. Just feel pretty good, and we just roll right into this. So Stratton won. I was glad about that. At this point, I mean, I guess best comparison would be a guy like Andre Chase from Wendy Chu. Like, definitely at this point a character wrestler, not I would say that based on what we've seen so far, based on just my own kind of projection for it, I don't see that as a world champion gimmick in NXT. That seems to be a very much like not enhancement talent. Obviously, she's a very talented performer, but this gimmick like that, it's not something that could really be taken to that next level. In my opinion, I don't really see it. We're talking on the Raw side of things. Riddle has a funny gimmick, or a silly gimmick, or a humorous gimmick, but he turns it on in the ring and he gets going and he wins matches and has been successful. This isn't that, right? This is, to me, it's very much like a played for laughs gimmick. And that's really the only purpose. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but that's kind of the way I see it. Steven saying it was a good finisher. Tiffany did look very impressive athletically. If I remember, I know she was an Olympian, or I think she was at least on the national gymnastics team, I believe, off the top of my head. And she did a couple like back handsprings, and her finisher was like this twirling splash off the ropes in a way. Looked pretty good, looked impressive. She's athletic, so she's got that going for her. If you focus more on that, like Tiffany Stratton could definitely be successful here, but then in the middle of the match, she complained about breaking her nail, so kind of a net zero on that one. But I was glad she won. But then we still had 2 segments backstage with Wendy Chu, two of them spread throughout the night. She's backstage. She got her shopping bags, so she still kind of has that going for her, I guess. And Dakota Kai is for some reason going through her shopping bags, and I kind of missed what Dakota said. I understand why. And then later on, Dakota lost to Saray, and then it was another segment after that where Wendy was like, I think she said, it's not as easy as it looks, to something to that effect. And I'm like, of course Dakota knows that. She's been there for like over 3 years now, and Wendy Chu's, especially as this new character, it's been a month tops. Seemed a little odd to me, but it feels like they're kind of setting up some kind of feud there. okay, maybe to counter my own point, maybe they're doing a feud to kind of help elevate Wendy Chu. I mean, Dakota Kai has that pedigree, that background, but definitely speaking of Dakota Kai, the real kind of overall sentiment, as we're already seeing here in the chat, Brian saying she needs to go to the main roster. Part of the running narrative here at this point with NXT is that you do have a pretty solid group of veterans that really do need to go to the main roster. Not as a knock on them, not even as a knock on the main roster. It's more so they're just the fit on NXT. You think of Dakota Kai, Io Shirai. We'll talk about her in a minute. Got a couple guys on the men's side of things. You have Roderick Strong, I would consider. LA Knight, I would consider that as well. Pete Dunn, definitely another one. Ciampa, a lot of these people, a lot of like the veterans of the upper echelon of the card here does feel like they should and could go to the main roster sooner rather than later, if not already, should have already been there, already been called up. I think Io Shirai definitely is an example of that. Dakota as well. So now they're just really stuck in this limbo. DJ saying that Dakota's like a jobber now. I don't know if I go that far. Jobber is, that has its own connotations, but she's definitely not maybe at the level she once was. She was kind of contending for the title. Now she's kind of fallen down the ranks a little bit. So that makes it even more interesting that she's not been called up, because she's one of the better, or if not one of the best, women's wrestlers they've got on the roster at this point. So I would definitely say the main roster could use her, but I digress. DJ pointing out that she has not won a match since her return. I believe it. I'll look it up to confirm it later, but that feels right. I don't remember the last time she won a match. And again, that's weird. She's a very talented person, very talented wrestler. She challenged for Raquel's. She faced Raquel again after she returned. Raquel won. Raquel, another one, definitely should be on the main roster at this point. It's a very odd dynamic in that sense. Steven, already looking forward to the draft. My friend, the draft is usually in August. The draft is usually in October. We're sitting here in February. That's a long way away. But I would agree, Steven, saying he hopes the draft will actually. It did last year as well. It didn't work out. Hit Row got released, and by and large, a lot of the NXT call-ups didn't work out yet again. But as Steven's saying, hopefully this year we'll see some more successful call-ups or moves from NXT to the main roster, because I think you definitely use it. On both sides, again, for people on NXT that are stuck in this limbo, for main roster that definitely needs a bit of a shake-up here. I would hope even before the draft, that's a long ways away, just some kind of post WrestleMania call-ups, or they used to do the superstar shake-up, something just to literally shake it up. I think would be very, very good. But I mean, we might as well keep on rolling. We're still talking about the women's division, so I might as well transition into the main event here. We had Mandy Rose defending the women's championship against Kaylee Ray, and I thought this was a very good match. I was very hopeful that Mandy Rose would win, and she did. I thought both she and Kaylee looked great. I tweeted about it at the start of the show. We had this kind of cold open with Mandy hyping up the title match, and I think, again, with a low bar especially, Mandy is one of the best parts of NXT. I really enjoyed her run as leading up to a title win as the champion. I think she really is evolving, progressing in the ring as a character. This is, I would say, her best work. I think that's pretty fair to say. And I'm someone that really enjoyed her run with Otis. I'm someone that enjoyed her storyline with Sonya Deville. I think this is leaps and downs beyond that. So yeah, I thought this was a good match. It was weird because before the match, Persia, Parada, and Indy Hartwell attacked Toxic Attraction backstage, kind of because they'll be fighting for the women's tag titles next week. So it kind of take them out of the equation. So I tweeted, "Oh, Mandy's gonna have to win this one on her own." That's kind of a fun little twist. No, it was a hard fought match, and it kind of looked like things were kind of about to go Kaylee's way, and these two people ran in the ring. And of course, it's Toxic Attraction, which was just a little weird. We also got a little mid-match update that Toxic Attraction has been escorted from the building alongside Indy and Persia. Somehow they find a way back in the building, and they help immediately. They help Mandy win, And then just as they're about to beat down Kaylee Ray, Io Shirai makes a save, and as Steven Chambers saying, it looks like Io has found her tag team partner for the Women's Dusty Cup. Now, this was set up earlier in the show by Io and Zoe Stark. Yet again, Zoe Stark still recovering from an injury, so she's saying, "Hey, Io, I know you want to get the titles back. We never really lost them. We're never pinned for those titles. So go for it. Go be in the Dusty Cup." And I just thought that was kind of funny. Like Zoe Stark is to Io as like an ex partner is to you if like they're trying to help you find somebody else. It's like a bit of a weird dynamic where like that she's trying to set her up in a way to be with somebody else. I feel like it's interesting. You don't really see that a lot. It's a little different at least. So kudos for that. Yeah, I this was the way that I interpreted. I thought it was interesting in the sense that it wasn't like 100% clear. I thought there was maybe a chance that Io might go for Mandy's title. I looked it up, and as far as I could tell, Io has not faced Mandy, especially since Mandy won the title. Io being a former women's champion, I think that's something they could definitely do. But I think Kaylee, Ray, and Io would be an interesting team for the Dusty Cup. And that was kind of the implied direction. They're kind of borrowing more specifically with Gigi and JC rather than Mandy as much. So it would seem to suggest they'll be targeting the tag titles. Yeah, they're a pretty interesting combination of personalities. But for this match here, Steven's saying he knew Toxic Attraction would interfere. Doesn't say anyone being Mandy for a while. I hope not. I think there's a lot they can do. She hasn't faced Io yet. I wish she won the title from Raquel, but there are a lot of matches to be had. There are a lot of stories to be told here, and if they play it right, they could eventually have Toxic Attraction kind of implode, right out like that. I think that'd be kind of beneficial for Gigi and JC. A lot of interesting things they could do, and like I said, I will be happy to have Mandy as the champion because I've been enjoying it. So I hope that does last. But for the Women's Dusty Cup, we do know that'll be starting. I think they said. I think it was like 2 weeks from now or so. So we saw Io and Kaylee Ray here. I thought for a second we saw Sarai facing Dakota Kai based on the thing that I mentioned earlier with Wendy Chu and Dakota Kai backstage. I kind of thought they might like shoehorn Wendy Chu and Sarai into a team kind of with that in mind. They didn't do that tonight. I'm not saying I guess like it could still happen, but trying to think who else we saw. We saw Valentina and I don't remember her name, but they confronted Cora Jade and Raquel Gonzalez. So we're seeing some of these teams kind of start to come together here, as we kind of expected. Some of these teams are getting thrown together, rather than being well-established duos, which is fine. That's the nature of the depth of the division at this point. So we do know what we'll have, presumably Persia and Indy as well, unless they do win the titles next week, which could happen, but. I think Toxic Attraction is going to keep on having a nice and impressive run with all the titles, at least for the short term future. So that's my at least prediction right now for that match next week. But we ran through a bunch of the women's division kind of side of things there, but definitely a lot more to dig into. So right away here was Eddie Zahari saying after AJ Styles, now Dolph Ziggler is in NXT. He's saying Dolph Ziggler versus Untitled Chapter could be good. Braun Breaker versus Ziggler could be the match for NXT Stand and Deliver. So we talked about it last week. There was a Raw digital exclusive after the show on Monday where Dolph Ziggler responded to a tweet from Braun Breaker at the Royal Rumble. I guess they had some beef before that because when Dolph got eliminated from the Rumble, Braun tweeted like, "Oh, you said you don't work on Tuesdays for NXT. I guess you don't work on Saturdays either." Dolph responded and teased coming down to NXT, teased challenging for the title. Didn't happen last week, and then we have a championship summit for NXT Vengeance Day because we do know that Braun Breaker will face Santos Escobar next week. So there, we're trying to set this title match, and we're trying to focus on them. And then Dolph Ziggler's theme song hits, and Dolph Ziggler comes to the ring. Now, Dolph Ziggler has never been on NXT. He was in the old developmental system. He debuted on the main roster, I believe, in like 2005, which is forever ago. And then I think he went back down to the developmental back then after he was in the Spirit Squad. He came back to the main roster in 2008 and has been there ever since. He's never been on NXT, which makes this interesting because Braun Breaker is the face of NXT 2.0. And Dolph Ziggler is very much the face of, the main roster in a weird way. Like, not like the face of the main roster. I just mean like a guy that's been there for so long. There definitely is a dichotomy there. So we had Ziggler come out. He was like criticizing Breaker, reminding everybody. I would say reminding us all. This is Dolph Ziggler. This is a former World Heavyweight Champion, Tag Team Champion, Intercontinental Champion, United States Champion, and even though he's been booked very, very poorly, there's no doubt the crowd was really they were literally chanting for him, steal the show, because the people were into him, and it was just so weird because like he's been booked so poorly, and yet people like they were treating him like he was this great big star. He comes out and the crowd was chanting "Holy blank!" Like they were like, "Oh man, it's Dolph Ziggler." Now that was a little weird to me. I'm like, we assume this would happen last week and it didn't. So like just because it didn't happen last week, you can't assume that it was going to happen. Maybe people kind of forgot about it. I admitted like kind of forgot about it, and then it happened. I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing. So this definitely did set up a couple of things. So we had Dolph confronting Braun Breaker, and then Tommaso Ciampa comes out and says that nobody wants to. Basically, he said nobody wants to see Dolph Ziggler as an NXT champion. But he says like if you're gonna kind of interrupt these things here, if you're gonna throw your hat in the ring, well then I am too because I want my title shot. Essentially, well at the very least he was kind of standing up for NXT as a brand. Ziggler kind of insulted Ciampa for like staying on NXT so long. He's like, when are you gonna take the training wheels off? Essentially. So I thought this was there are a lot of interesting moving parts here, and pretty much I felt that they did set up a fatal 4-way. That's what Steven Chambers is predicting. They announced that here, which felt interesting to me that they had Ziggler. This was the go home for Vengeance Day. They had Ziggler come out, they had Ciampa come out, and Santos Legado slammed Breaker through a table, but they didn't announce anything, any change for the Vengeance Day. So I'm not exactly sure where this is going. I think it was interesting. It was unexpected, which is always good. It wasn't. When they had the announcement for the Championship Summit, I'm like, I don't really know what the point is. I'm just kind of having your standard face-to-face promo there, but having Ziggler and Ciampa come out definitely helped. Brian saying it was great, a lot of star power in the ring there. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I liked it. Now I'll say I used to be a huge fan of Dolph Ziggler. When he won the World Heavyweight title in 2013, I was happy as clam. I was such a huge fan of him. I thought he was so good. And then over the years, the way he's been booked has been so mediocre, losing all the time. Like 2020, Drew McIntyre wins the title, and then they have him feud with Dolph Ziggler, and they just drag it out. Like they've done so much damage to Dolph. Like anytime that he's in a feud, like he's not going to win. If it's for a title, he had a kind of a little brief resurgence with Robert Roode and the Dirty Dogs. They won the Raw tag titles, the SmackDown tag titles, I believe, at one point. So even now, that's part of the thing that I think they're going to struggle against. It's like, yeah, he's got that background, but it comes to NXT. It's like, do you really think that Braun Breaker is going to lose to Dolph Ziggler in a title match? Like, is Ziggler going to be the NXT champion? That's a hard sell. Like, I don't know if that's the best move, especially with the 2.0 emphasis on youth and newness and everything. Not exactly, Dolph Ziggler. At this point, 2022, I like it though. I think it's fun. I really like Finn Balor's run. I think I saw a lot of people comparing Finn Balor's run on NXT to what we could see with Dolph Ziggler here. I just think that it's an uphill battle. I think it's an uphill battle having that where that booking definitely is going to be working against them. DJ saying I can see Dolph moving down to NXT from Raw. He's not doing much on the roster except for your typical 8-man tags and things like that. He hasn't really been doing anything. So they might as well use him and help kind of add a little buzz to NXT. He does have that name value even with the poor booking. Steven saying if this was the first time that at least he can recall Ziggler being on the mic in months. As far as I can recall, yeah, I don't remember him getting a lot of promo time lately. So he's good, man. Like I'm saying Dolph Ziggler is good. I'm just saying they've handled him so poorly in recent years. And it's a shame. Again, I used to be such a huge fan of him, and I still am. I think he's a great wrestler. He's a great performer. And on the flip side, Steven's saying that he's good on promos as well. He's the total package. And here we are, 22-22. He last won the world title in 2013 or so. He's never really reached that level again. He's had some successes. DJ pointing out he was the sole survivor for Team Cena against the Team Authority years ago. A lot of Dolph's successes though are years ago. Like he hasn't really done anything. I remember he won the Raw titles in 2019. Again, I think he and Rude. I believe he and Rude held SmackDown titles as well briefly last year or so. Maybe late 2020. It all blurs together. But that those aren't exactly huge milestones, right? I think that's fair to say. I like this comment from Michael saying Dolph Ziggler is like a donut. He's very good, but he has a lot of empty calories. Doesn't do nothing for us. I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of truth in that. Now, here's what I want to talk about. Could this possibly result in Big Bobby Roode coming back to NXT? Boy, I hope so. If only because, well, okay, I'm going to contradict myself. I hope so, or I would have hoped so when it was still the Black and Gold brand. Again, other than Dolph Ziggler here, we haven't really seen a whole lot of going back to NXT. It's like you've got the AJ Styles coming down briefly, you got Vader coming down briefly. These kind of cameos, if you will, these special guest appearances, like if we're talking about a normal TV show. Whereas in NXT Black and Gold, you had people kind of come down and reinvent themselves. Mandy Rose came down to NXT before the 2.0 revamp, but otherwise we haven't really seen that recently. I'd be very happy if Robert Roode came down to NXT. If they gave him the glorious theme song back, I miss it so much. That would be a very important part of that deal. Bring it back, push him to the moon. I would like to see that. Because I would say even more than Ziggler, he's very much been misused on the main roster here, and it's a shame. Bobby Roode is so talented. My gosh, if you're not familiar with his work in TNA or Impact Wrestling, go back, check it out. Even just go look up a YouTube montage. Great in the ring, great in promos. His NXT run was it came during my break from wrestling a couple years ago, but I know people really got into it. But people love the glorious theme song. People liked it a lot. I only really saw of his main roster run when he was with Chad Gable, and from then on Raw. That's the first thing I can really remember. Again, I took a couple years away at that point and got back to in 2019. So I haven't gotten to really see him really be all the successful on the main roster. So he could and maybe even should go back to NXT. Again, no knock on him at all. More of a knock or a fair criticism of the booking at this point. Brian Everett saying Roode is sorely missed. Every here and there, he gets something on the main roster. He was part of Ziggler's feud with Big E in October, but definitely it's that jobber to the stars, if you will. Not a jobber in the real sense, but definitely upper echelon champions. Way down below is where he and Ziggler have been for a while at this point. And it's a shame. They're both so very talented. So if Ziggler coming back or going to NXT at this point, if this is more of a couple week thing or longer, I'd be pretty happy if it led to Roode coming back with him. I think it'd be very, very good. But for the championship summit here thing, again, a lot of moving parts. We got Eddie saying Ziggler and Ciampa could be very, very. He's saying Ziggler and Ciampa could be good. I think it could be very, very good. I think those two guys are great in the ring. Braun Breaker and Ziggler. I think he or someone else mentioned earlier that Breaker and Ziggler could likely happen at NXT Stand and Deliver. That will be the WrestleMania weekend show. I believe that's on the Saturday, and then WrestleMania Night 1 is on that Saturday as well. This will be the first NXT special event outside the Performance Center, so that's pretty cool. And in some way, maybe he's predicting they're using Ziggler here to get some attraction, of casual fans not related to the NXT thing, but more people that might say, "Oh, Dolph Ziggler, I'm gonna watch it for that." I'll imagine that you might get some more additional viewers for that. But we could talk all about people that could, in theory, benefit from going down to NXT. You think about Robert Roode, as we were talking about a minute ago, Ricochet, Cesaro. I would agree. All of them, very, very talented. All of them deserve much better than they've been getting. But I digress. They are on the main roster for now, and we could sit here all day thinking, oh, they should do this, they should do that. But that is a dangerous game to be playing, especially in the realm of NXT 2.0. We got a little more of a build for Pete Dunne versus Tony D'Angelo. We do know they'll be, well, we knew they will be facing in a steel cage match next week. And then Pete Dunne defeats Draco Anthony. Tony tries to interfere, doesn't work out. Pete wins. Tony tries to attack Pete. Pete Dunne breaks his fingers, or tries to at least, and then brings a bunch of weapons to the ring and turns it into a weaponized steel cage match. So that'll be the match next week. To expect chairs, cricket bats, I guess. I call it a paddle last week. I was mistaken. A cricket bat, I guess. Tony with his crowbar, of course. Who even knows what else might get involved? But it is interesting to think, are they going to have Pete Dunne lose twice? As I've been saying for weeks now, they literally had a memorial service for Pete Dunne on the show. So I don't know what he's still doing here, but he's still here. He's still feuding with Tony D'Angelo. And yes, Brian, I absolutely agree. He's saying Dunne needs to go to the main roster ASAP, but at least in the short term, the match with Tony D will be fun. I have to think that Tony's going to win, but in some ways, I kind of struggle to think they're going to have Pete lose twice, and then maybe that's why Stephen Chambers predicting they're going to have Dunn. He's saying predicting Dunn next week. I think he means Dunn winning. Pete Dunne should have been the NXT champion a while ago, so the fact that he hasn't won the title leaves him very much in a weird limbo of like he could challenge for the title, or he could move to the main roster tomorrow, and either one would make sense, would be warranted. I do think it's a shame that he's never won the title because he's just that good. Tony D'Angelo, absolute mobster. He was rocking like a fedora tonight. He looked pretty cool. He's growing on me a little bit. I think he would benefit from a win next week. Maybe eventually have him challenge Braun Breaker and eventually start to kind of elevate more of the 2.0 guys so they can face each other. Whereas so far we've kind of seen Braun and Ciampa, Braun and Santos, more of the veteran side of things there. That's probably the long-term play, and that's going to take some time to establish in that sense. But I'm sure it will be a fun match, and kind of looking forward to it. So otherwise, here we had LA Knight versus Sangha, or the artist formerly known as Sorav. With this match here set up last week, Grayson Waller said that if LA Knight won, he implied he would lift his restraining order against LA Knight. LA Knight wins, some botched interference from Grayson Waller, but then Knight attacked Waller after the match. They kind of brawled a little bit. Knight left him lying. Later in the show, Waller said next week he wants vengeance, not in a match. No, he wants to have LA Knight arrested. So interested to see what's going to happen there. I feel like they're actually going to do that for quote unquote shock value. That feels like an NXT 2.0 thing to do. Again, it seems a little weird that that's a heel thing, right? He was like, I'll lift the restraining order and then to go back on his word. But more from a linear storytelling perspective, it's like they said they're going to do it and then they didn't. So it's like it came across as a little odd to me. But I guess at this point we can look forward or assume that we'll have LA Knight getting arrested next week on NXT. So that's something to anticipate. Whether you want to see it or not, I feel like it's going to happen. So DJ pointed out that Saray was in action. Saray faced Dakota Kai, right? Am I wrong on that one? I think. She faced Dakota Kai. We were talking about that earlier. Still not the biggest fan of Saray's new gimmick. And we were talking about earlier, Dakota Kai definitely has fallen down the ranks a little bit. Saray wins clean, so a good win for her. But at the same time, again, because Saray has because Dakota's fallen down the ranks a little bit, that is maybe a bit less valuable of a win than it might be otherwise. Like I said, not really digging the new gimmick in that sense, but maybe they can kind of figure it out. We need to get some tease for Joe Gacy's growing faction here. I mentioned Draco Anthony a minute ago. Draco did face Pete Dunne. Before the match, they were backstage. Gacy and Harland were kind of confronting Draco Anthony and saying, or Gacy was saying, Harland doesn't talk. Gacy was saying, hey, you don't have to do this alone. Kind of trying to softly recruit him a little bit. And then we had Draco kind of go up to Pete Dunne. And Draco's trying to be nice. He's like, I respect you. It's going to be an honor to be in the ring. Seems a little dorky, but the thought was there, right? It's the thought that counts. Dunn kind of blew him off. He's like, I don't care about your respect. That's my horrible attempt at a British accent, by the way. Yeah, Gacy and Harland were watching very creepily from the podium. Gacy's smile is absolutely terrifying. Like he plays the part so well. He's really growing on me, and I'm curious to see where they go with it. I should say I do kind of hope that Drake Anthony does join the stable, because I tweeted about it during the show. On a show full of like borderline or flaming like full-fledged cartoon characters, or yeah, at best, more kind of, I mean, okay, at best, you've got Braun Breaker, Carl Hayes, more like, more developed characters, but like otherwise, a lot of very much like either stereotypes or goofy characters, or just very, very like simplistic, like very, very, and like old school kind of characters, very, very just one dimensional, of like Tony D'Angelo, mobster, Saray, anime schoolgirl that gets superpowers, I guess. And Tiffany Shot and Dazzle. It's very like stereotypical characters. So on a show of all these like bright, at the very least, for better or worse, bright, colorful characters, you got Draco Anthony, whose gimmick seems to be that he works hard, that he goes to the gym early, which seems weird to me. It's like that's the gimmick you're on with. You got like someone like Nikita Lyons, DJ pointing out, talk about her in a minute. She's got this whole backstory about her mom and dad. She was on the road, and like I think her dad was like a musician, her mom's a groupie kind of thing, or whatever. It's a whole story. And then Draco Anthony, that's it. Like that seems weird to me. So I do kind of hope that he does join the faction, to answer DJ's question. Because to not have a character like that, I'm not saying I like this overabundance of goofy characters, but like to not be, again, unless you're at the very, very top level of like Braun Breaker, Kamal Hayes, Cameron Grimes, another one, but even he's like kind of like a bit of a like goofy character in a way. To not be in that same kind of pattern in a way just feels off. It's like you stand out pretty badly in a way. So no, I think that'd be good for him. I think that would easily set up like he could join him for now, turn on him down the road. Pretty easy face turn potentially. Why not? DJ, I mentioned DJ pointing out Nikita Lyons here. We had a better promo than last week. Nikita had another kind of video segment talking about her background, talking about her life story, I guess. Brian saying that her MMA background's impressive as well. I'm not exactly familiar with that. I do know Elka Blasic. She's a nunchuck master, which is pretty dang cool. I hope they incorporate that. I think I may miss what happened in the moment tonight. I think they really referenced that tonight in her vignette. So that's kind of something to help her stand apart. But they're just saying that she should join Diamond Mine. And maybe team with Ivy Nile. I mean, there are worse things to do. I think that'd be interesting. Have Diamond Mine have potentially, at the very, if not the winners of the Dusty Cup on both sides of it, at least some impressive performances, and have like two solid tag teams. Why not? Why not? I know that again, there are worse things. Well, NXT 2.0 these days, I see no reason really not to. Otherwise, here, I think I've touched on just about everything, other than a potential tease that might break my heart, folks. Apparently, Index, there might be some trouble in paradise. So we had backstage, Indy Hartwell was on the phone, seemingly with Dexter Loomis, my man, Dexter Loomis, talking about getting in a bubble bath when she gets home. I think she said Dexter, like during the conversation. I may have missed that, but the implication was that it was Dexter. Persia Prada comes up and says, "Oh, were you talking to Duke?" Because earlier in the show, Duke Hudson indirectly wished Indy well in her match next week. Maybe planting the seeds a little bit there. And then Indy was like, "No, why would I be talking about him, or talking to him, I should say?" And then Toxic Attraction shows up. They start brawling, and they get pulled apart. And a picture falls. And it's a picture that as far as I could tell, was of Indy Hartwell and Duke Hudson. Thoughts? Like, what does that mean? That she's cheating on Dexter? Does that mean they're at least kind of teasing that? Is Dexter gonna like abduct Duke and he's never gonna get seen again? Man, like that'd be a real bummer. We're sitting here in February, and Dex got married in September, right before, or it may have been the first show under the 2.0 revamp. I'm not quite sure. Right? It was very, very close. That's a short marriage. Come on, man. Like, at least give them some time to enjoy that marital bliss. Like, And like we haven't even really got to see them play it out. You know, we haven't got to see them as a married couple. They had their honeymoon, which was absolutely chef's kiss wonderful. And otherwise, they haven't really seen anything. Like Dexter's like never on the show, which I don't really get. I think he had a storyline injury for a little bit, but that's been really disappointing. I've been not held back. You know, I've not been the biggest fan of NXT 2.0 in general, but to like not really like follow up and continue this major storyline of like Index and the romance, now the marriage and they're a couple, to really not have it be a kissing part of the show, I think that's a big miss. Like Dexter, I mean, again, he's on a show full of colorful characters. Like Dexter Lumis, resident serial killer, like that fits. Oh man, Brian's saying that Index might be broken up. I really hope not, man. That was one of my favorite parts of NXT in all of 2021, and there were a lot of the things I liked before 2.0 came along. Michael's saying he hopes Dexter signed that prenup. Yeah, man. If that's where they're going, I hope that Dexter. Hey, as Dexter taught us all when they went on the honeymoon, I hope he brought protection. In this case, with the prenup there. Boy, that would just be such a bummer, man. Like to take that away, to take one of the it sounds odd to say one of the last few like carryovers of the Black and Gold era. I'd be pretty darn bummed out. DJ's asking, how could I possibly allow this cheating? Well, if it were up to me, they'd be together forever and happily ever after, and they'd have Index babies. Like, if they want to do long to fucking do that, like 20 years from now, whatever, I don't even know. 10 years, whatever. Or adopt kids. I don't know, man. They're like get weird with it. I don't know. No, Michael Covington, I appreciate the pun, saying it has to be this way. Man, I love the way. I miss Johnny Organo so much. I miss NXT 2.0 so much. I don't mean to like sit here being all, you know, oh, woe is me, and I miss it. But man, there were some darn good times, and here we are, often joking about toaster time, talking about NXT 2.0. Ah, man. John DJ joking that John's not here actually because he's writing the storylines for Index's breakup. He's not traveling. He's hatching a plot, hatching the plans to break up Index. Your words, not mine, DJ. Steven's saying that Duke and Persia could be kind of setting something up here. Maybe a little bit of a betrayal coming up. Maybe that Persia is actually the one that's into Duke here and setting up a little bit of a feud. I would much prefer that than having an Index break up. At least at this point, they at least give it like a year, at least a year. Worst case of just these irregular like references to it, but to break them up, what, 4 months after they got married? Like, come on, man. Yeah, that'd be a bummer. I'm just gonna play it flat out. I'd be pretty darn disappointed if Index broke up at this point. Hopefully, as Steven says, it's a swerve. But that being said, folks, curious to see what you all thought about the show this week, or at the very start. A bunch of you said that it was better than last week. It was actually a pretty good show. Again, I would say it was better than last week for myself, scale of 1 to 10. It's hard because like, it's NXT 2.0, and there's inherently some stuff I really don't like. And then I think about Raw last night, like wasn't as like actively painful. I'll go for like a 6.4. I gave Raw a 6.5. It seems warranted. Oh, but hey, shout out Steven Chambers. Yes, maybe I'll up my score for the sheer fact tonight. Nova and Wagner, always a plus. At least I'm not trying to knock the guy. I'm just saying based on what we've seen so far. Not working for me. So anytime I don't have to sit here and complain about it directly in terms of what they're doing with it, that's a win in my book. So heck, 6.5 for me. 6.5 is, I think that's fair. And again, that's probably I other than like a special show for like Vengeance Day or Halloween Havoc was very good. You know, New Year's Eve was very good. Your average ups of NXT by and large, I'm probably going to struggle to go above 6.5 unless it's like a really special show where they like load up the card for a normal episode. Because that's just where I'm at these days. DJ was 7.9, assuming you enjoyed it. That's good. DJ asking if Mandy's defending the belt next week as well. No, I think they had it. She defended it tonight, and that was her title match. Like they only have so many matches they can do next week. Well, it's only a 2-hour show. I know that we got the men's Dusty Cup finals, Santos Escobar and Braun Breaker, the cage match. More that I'm forgetting, but the women's tag title match as well. The North American title match, I didn't talk about that much because we only had 2 kind of pre-tape promos for it. Again, I love Cameron Grimes, rooting for him. I feel like he's going to win. But that's already a pretty loaded card. I feel like they'd be better off just leaving it at that. I think that's why they had Mandy face Kaylee Ray tonight. And there you go. So I don't, as far as I know, she's not defending the title next week. She defended tonight because of that. So Herman, I don't know if I read this way, said given a 6. I feel like that's fair. I was trying to be generous with my 6.4. Eventually bumped it up to a 6.5 for the lack of Von Wagner. But no, I think next week will be a good show. I mean, again, Santos Escobar, Braun Breaker for the NXT title. I think that's going to be very, very good. I feel very, very confident that Braun's going to win. Cameron Grimes going to be very, very good. I feel very confident that Cameron Hayes is going to win. But they're going to be really good matches. The women's tag title match, a little less certain, but I feel pretty confident in Toxic Attraction. For the men's Dusty Cup, I feel pretty good about MSK winning, but I could see them wanting to roll with the Creed brothers because this is what NXT 2.0 does. Got to get the new talent over. And for the cage match, again, that one's a little more interesting where it's like, I don't really think they're going to have Pete Dunne lose to Dunn twice. Not lose to himself. Not Pete Dunne lose to Tony D'Angelo twice. But then if he wins, like, what are they going to do with him? It's interesting. So it's definitely a stock card, as Steven Chambers is saying. It's definitely going to be a good show. Looking forward to it. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not trying to like be negative. It's unfortunate that it's going to be on Sci-Fi again. We saw Raw yesterday drew the lowest viewership on record, largely due to the move to Sci-Fi. The move to Sci-Fi was because of the Olympics. That will still be the case next week. People will be watching the Olympics. So unfortunately, I think even with a stat card, I think it's going to be a very good show. But more often than not, if a show doesn't get the viewership, people kind of knock it or like go, NXT 2.0 LOL or whatever it might be, really knocking the viewership and knocking the product itself. I've knocked the product myself plenty of times, but I think they'll be fighting against that next week. So I'm hoping for them. I'm rooting for it to be a good show. I think it'll be a good show. Looking forward to it. And lastly, here, Steven Chambers saying if Dunn loses, he will protest. Protest away. Like if he loses, you use your freedom to express yourself like that in a safe way. But yeah, DJ pointed out, not the problem with this move to Sci-Fi. Not everyone has it. It's just like AXS TV for Impact. Other channels, for the less homes have it. Like less cable packages have it. So that's inherently an obstacle. So that is definitely the downside here of getting preempted to a different channel. That's a smaller channel that's not in as many homes as USA. So that's just inherently a challenge. And again, unfortunately, that might kind of put a bit of a damper on the show next week, as good as I expect it to be. So that being said, folks, even with a fairly good to decent episode of NXT 2.0, whether it's NXT 2.0, Raw, SmackDown, and good, bad, in between, whatever it might be, we're always here to talk about it. Schedule permitting, Robert and I we'll be back here on Friday. No GCW this week, so we'll be back on Friday to talk all about it. Shout out to Steven Chambers bringing up, yes, just like ECW back in the day. Man, I used to love watching ECW back on Sci-Fi when I was a kid. So there's something kind of a little nostalgic for me watching Raw, less overall, but NXT definitely does kind of feel like that, at least a little bit more of the lesser show. It's not Raw and SmackDown, but it's the other show. It's the ugly duckling in a way, right? It's the other show. So a good shout out there from Steven. But Rob and I we'll be back on Friday for the SmackDown show. As the road to the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event continues. Dominic recorded an episode of Two Dynamite Dudes on a Rampage for all things AW last night. Make sure to check that out. And otherwise, a great stream of interviews constantly coming at you guys. This week, we've got one with Charlie Haas. My interview with Ian Riccaboni will be coming out this week. and many, many more good things in the archives as well. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe. We appreciate you. I appreciate you all for your support, especially tonight. I was riding solo. It's always, it's fun to just hear you guys, your thoughts on the show, just so I can really just bounce back with you and talk about the show, whether it's NXT, Raw, whatever it might be. I appreciate your all support. Brian giving the show a 7. So you see, not a bad show. So it makes it easier, right? When I'm not here, absolutely like bashing the show start to finish, like it's a bit of a more fun time. Like there were things that were all right tonight, so that's good. But even on nights where it's not the case, I'm still here because that's the job, right? I'm here no matter what. Love it or lump it. Good show, bad show, anywhere in between. That's what we do. So and likewise, I appreciate you all for coming out and tuning in no matter what, whether it's good show or bad show. Tune in with your support. Means the world to me. I appreciate it so much. I would not be doing the show without you all. So I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for taking the time here. Brian saying looking forward to takeover shows. Yeah, man, they're fun. They're good shows. Pouring out for the takeover days. Man, I miss the era of NXT. Anytime I see a picture of Triple H, I get sad. It's like I miss it, man. But these like special shows, even just the special episodes of NXT are definitely a tribute to the takeover shows like that. So it'll be good. Again, even with the viewership dynamic there, where it's probably going to not get a good viewership rating, I think it'll be a good show. Looking forward to it. So that being said, folks, thanks for listening. I really do appreciate your support each and every week, each and every show. With that being said, the world out there, it's a very, very scary place, but we all come together here, whether it's Raw, NXT, SmackDown, good, bad show, whatever it might be. We come together to do one thing at WrestleZone, and that, my friends, is to enjoy